Kia ora, kia ora. Nau mai haere mai. Welcome to webinar number 3 in this series of webinars about free digital tools for learning. So yesterday we had a look at Gamefruit for some block coding in authentic contexts, looking at how to code your own mihi. And then we also looked at stop motion animation, which was tons of fun. I got quite excited showing everybody all the little ways to use that tool, so that was pretty good. You'll see here that we are recording these sessions, so they will be available to watch on demand whenever you want. I'll upload them early next week, hopefully Monday, and I'll send out links to the playlist of all of the webinars to everybody who has responded to the sign up form. You're very welcome to share it on to anybody you know who might be interested. If you want access to the slides, then feel free to enter the bit.ly. Jessie, my friend and colleague, is being moderator for this, so she is available for questions and comments in the chat at any time, so she'll look after you there. I'll try not to get too distracted by chat today. I'll let Jess look after you there, and she can probably stick the bit.ly link into the chat for people to click on there, so you can follow along with the slides and have access to them. Just bookmark that link for yourself so you've got access to it. Welcome everybody who's just joining us. This is webinar 3 in the series. We've got one more at 3 o'clock. Feel free to ignore the news and just jump back into this webinar. Not this particular link. You should have the link to the Tinkercad Sketchfab one for later. If you want to come to that, feel free to jump into this webinar. It's going to be a lot more fun than whatever the news says at 3 o'clock. So feel free to click on the link, follow along with the slides if that suits you, or just enjoy watching it, and you can jump into the slides later. I think I'll send out an email to everyone at the end of this with a link to the slides, just so that everybody's got it. And so we'll get started, and I'm gonna zoom on ahead. This is all stuff we did the other day. Oh yeah, one thing to note, just for those who might not have joined for any of the other webinars, we're going to be talking about authentic contexts for digital technology, because there's no point in trying to use a tool if you don't know why you're using it or what you're trying to create. And so it's true of all tools. Digital tools are the same as well. So I'm going to be relating all of these digital tools to Conservation Week and Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori, and just kind of brainstorming some rough ideas about how you might use these tools to investigate these contexts. But these are just examples. Feel free to come up with your own ideas too. So that was Clap Motion, and now we are going to be looking at SculptGL. So what is SculptGL? SculptGL is a free virtual clay modeling tool. It's a website, and it is a pretty tactile thing to play with. So it's best for organic 3D designs. So things that, yeah, they don't necessarily have a geometric form or anything. And the picture that's there is something that I was playing around with last year, when was it last year, maybe even 2 years ago, when I created a bunch of how-to videos, short how-to videos that are up on YouTube. So these are tools that we've been using at Te Papa in our learning lab for a few years. So we've had a bit of practice with them, and all the tools that I'm talking about, we enjoy using them because they have a low floor, so they're very easy to get started with for complete beginners or people who've never seen them before. It's very easy to achieve something with them, but with practice, then you can achieve really amazing results. So they've got a high ceiling for growth and development. And I've put some links in there for things to kind of get you started and get you thinking about things. So the Rarang Matahiko website, Rarang Matahiko is a kind of a project that Te Papa have been running with other museums and galleries around the country in partnership with the Ministry of Education to do digital professional development for teachers. And so they have, as part of that, been creating lots of really great resources around free digital tools. So you can, there's a really good little 2-page, like 2 sides of A4, just kind of tips and tricks about how to use SculptGL as part of that, and little how-to videos. Because SculptGL, as you will see, is a very tactile tool, it makes it really valuable if you're talking about something like Hokkaido. It's kind of difficult to give an entire class of kids access to hard materials and the tools to do their own wood carving. But if they have access to a screen, then they can explore what that kind of mark making might be and might mean. And so I've just linked you to the Te Ara encyclopedia, online encyclopedia there. There's lots of really interesting information and stories as part of that. And so that's like some good background to investigate if you're thinking about Hokkaido using SculptGL. Some challenges for you. You could use SculptGL to design your own nature guardian or Pau Rahui. Both of those fit very nicely into thinking about Conservation Week coming up. So not this week coming, but next week. And also Hokkaido being the original te reo, really, the original way of recording stories and language by Māori before written language was before te reo Māori was encoded as a written language. So there's lots of really interesting korero that you can have around that. If you want to go for something a little bit more contemporary or less steeped in Mataranga, then you could pick up the TikTok challenge of Draw Your Monster. I've just put a little link there, and that's doing things like the color of the skin color of your monster is your favorite color, and the eye color of your monster is your birthstone, and yeah, like adding animal horns and wings and stuff. So you can do all that kind of stuff as well. So those are some ideas to play with it, and we're going to jump into SculptGL now, and I'll show you what it looks like. So this is the SculptGL interface, and so you start off with a big blob of virtual clay in the middle, and the thing that we want to be paying attention to is all this stuff on the right hand side. And what you want to look for is these tools options here, because the first thing I like to show people with SculptGL is actually how to change the color, because you can get lots of really nice colors, and you can paint your clay lots of nice colors. And if you notice right now, it's a kind of uncomfortable shade of my skin color, which is going to get very weird very quickly when we start manipulating it. So I'm going to change the color. So I'm going to click on the tools and go down to paint. And if I mouse over this one that says albedo, I don't actually know what albedo means. If anyone knows what albedo means, then feel free to put it in the chat. I would love to learn. But I know that if I put my mouse over this, then it gives me all of the colors of the rainbow. So I can choose any color I like. And green is a nice color. So I'm going to choose green. And you'll notice that I can move it around, and it gives me a kind of preview of what that color looks like on the virtual clay, because the virtual clay is shaded with light and shadow. So it's different depending on where it is. So it just shows you what that color is on your entire form. And if I want it to stay that color, I can draw on it, or I can click paint all, and it just paints the entire thing. So we know how to color it now, which is great. I'm going to now have a play with some of these other tools. So this is, if you imagine that you're playing with clay or Play-Doh or something, and beside you you have a whole array of different tools. which do different things. So you got to pick up a different tool for a different purpose. So I might use the brush tool, and the brush tool adds material to your clay. So if you see this, I can add material to it. I can, if I spiral my mouse around, and also SculptGL works an awful lot better if you're using a mouse. So I highly recommend, if you're doing this with students, you try and encourage them to use mice. Mice are pretty cheap. If there's a USB connection to whatever device they're using, then plug in a little USB mouse. The interface is kind of small, so even if I had a touch screen, it just wouldn't be nearly as accurate or as good as if I had a mouse. And we find at Te Papa that students, learners who can use mice, it just enables them an awful lot further. And there's a lot of frustration can happen for learners who can't figure out how to use a mouse. So we highly recommend using mice, and it just makes it an awful lot easier. So I've been adding some material to this using the brush tool. And if I want, I can move my view around. So I can click on the background and click and drag, and you can see the 3D form of my clay there, just like that. And you'll notice that it's perfectly symmetrical. And maybe I don't want it to be symmetrical. Maybe I want, because maybe asymmetry is beauty, and I want to make this more beautiful. So I can actually go down here and find this option here, symmetry, and I can uncheck it. And now if I draw something on one side, it doesn't appear on the other. And maybe I'm going to draw a spine down the back of it. There we go. So SculptGL is a very tactile tool. It responds really well to lots of very kind of small interactions, the same way as clay. And it's really great for doing kind of character design type things and kind of subtle work. But I highly recommend the first time you touch it, you just explore every single tool and try and understand what those different tools do. It's kind of like you want to kind of build up a little bit of a sensitivity of what this tool is. And you can do that with different challenges. So you could do a kind of 5-minute challenge of do whatever it is you want, but create a creature. And then at the end of that 5 minutes, share that with the group. And you've got to tell the story of who that creature is, what its name is, where does it live, what does it eat, what does it, is it a nocturnal or a diurnal creature? So you could come up with a whole lot of story about what that creature is. And if you're doing this with a group of learners, you could show them just how to use the brush tool and how to use the paint tool. And then they could, and you limit them just to that, and they have to do everything with that. And then you might show them how to use the twist tool. And the twist tool is pretty fun. I'm going to put symmetry back on because this is going to be fun. And I can pick a piece and I can rotate that piece around. And so you can create really lovely, interesting koru shapes. So the thing with SculptGL is that it gets weird very quickly if you push things too far. So you'll notice I start getting lots of really jaggedy edges, and that's just because I'm pushing the limits of what the interface can deal with, what the kind of virtual clay can actually handle. And that's just an interesting thing to understand, to see how much you can manipulate it before it starts to all go weird. So that's what twist does. Crease is really great if you're interested in kind of Fakairo and mark making, because it does a nice subtle groove. And so you can add that. Every single tool, you'll notice below the tool, it has a radius and it has an intensity. And so you can play with radius and intensity. If I increase radius a bit, you'll see that the width of the groove is a lot deeper. And I can reduce the intensity, and that might push it in less far. So there's a lot of subtlety that can be gained by this. And if you're moving around your model and you end up lost in some view and you can't really figure out where you are, you can always press the space bar on your keyboard and that'll snap you back to the kind of home view of the thing. So here it is. I've created some interesting weird monster. Oh yeah, you can also use the drag tool to I might take off symmetry for this actually. And the drag tool just picks a piece and allows you to extend it. So this is kind of like a pinch and grab effect if I was using clay. And I can make my creature weird and droopy if I like. There we go. Weird and droopy monster. And the last tool that I want to show you, so I've shown you paint. We could add some extra color to this, maybe some purple details or something. I know Jess is a big fan of purple, so I'm doing this for you, Jess. There we go, purple eyes, that's nice. And then maybe some dark pupils. I can zoom in using my scroll wheel. So I'm going to do that. And there we go. There we go. Some kind of weird monster. Lovely. And the final one is this transform tool that I want to show you. And so this transform tool is pretty useful. This allows you to change the overall size of your piece of clay. You can also drag it around. So I can click on these arrows when they go yellow. I can move the background and there we go. So I can move that around. I can also extend and squish my design as well. So I could make it squishy like that, make it really weird and odd. It's great, wonderful. Yeah, that's fine. So I can do that with it. But the other thing this does is it allows me to make space in my workspace to add more lumps of clay. So if I go to scene, I can add another sphere, or add a cube, or add a cylinder, or add a torus. And so maybe what I want is I want my monster creature thing to have a body that is donut shaped, because why not? And I'm going to make the whole thing a little bit smaller. And oh yeah, so these you can also rotate things as well, which is kind of handy. Let's see, I want to make it better like that. Great. There we go. And then I can click on this object and I can shift it back and shift it up and shift it across. There we go. And now I have this weird monster with a donut shaped body. And then I might add cylinder and make my cylinder a whole lot smaller and make that cylinder for its leg. And then I could do some details on this one and make the legs blue. There we go. Oops. More purpley, and maybe use the drag tool to. Oh, I forgot to actually change the color. Have a look. Paint all. There we go. So now I've made it like that. And what I can do with that shape is I can copy selection. And so now there's actually two objects there. You sort of change color a little bit. I can use the transform tool to drag out the other leg. Great, it's wonderful. And I'm actually going to copy the selection again because I'm going to turn one of those legs into a a very strange arm. I'm just making things up now. I'm just playing. I had no plan to do this earlier. Here we go. I've got a donut body shaped monster. What kind of a strange human am I? Copy selection. Da 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 da. Spin it around. Attach it to its body. La la. There we go. I have created a monster just like that. It took me about, I don't know, 15 minutes. I did know what I was doing a little bit. I know my way around the tools, but that just kind of gives you an idea about the kinds of ways that you can manipulate the forms, which is quite fun.
Hey, Donald.
Yes.
Would you be able to show us what you do if you want to undo an action, or if there's something you like in your design that you want to, or that you don't like in your design anymore that you want to get rid of?
Yeah. Thanks, Jess. That's a good question. So let's just say that I have, oh yeah, move and drag do kind of similar things. Let's just say I grab this and I stick it down there. I'm like, oh no, that's not what I meant to do. Up here in the history menu, you can see you can click undo and redo and Control Z and Control Y. Underneath it, you also have this max stack. And so this is the maximum number of actions that the website will remember that you can go back on. So currently, the stack is only 15 actions. So I could only go back 15 steps. So I can Control Z and it'll undo things, and I can keep on going back. If I keep pressing Control Z, it'll get to a point where it'll stop. I'm still pressing Control Z, but nothing is happening because I've reached that stack limit. And I don't believe that if I change the stack now, I'll be able to go back further. Yeah. So Control Z, the undo button works just as well on SculptGL as it does in most digital programs. Also, if you get to a point where you've done all this work and actually it was fun, but you don't want it anymore, you can go to scene and clear the scene, and that'll just empty the whole scene of everything, get rid of it all. Because this is a website, there is you can lose your work very easily. There's not really that you can't save it to this website. The only way that you can save it is by exporting it from this website. So if I close the browser window right now, then my work would be completely lost. There's no way to save it. Also, if I clear the scene, you can't history and undo that. Once you clear the scene, it's gone for forever. So there's lots of other things to explore in this, but I would start with exploring the tools and the different shapes of virtual clay that you can play with. And to export it, you can export it in lots of different ways. So you could export this as a .stl. If anyone has a 3D printer at their disposal, then you could try exporting it as a .stl. And you could try and 3D print your designs, which is wonderful and fun. And we have done that in the past, which is great. But I find 3D printing to be quite time consuming and a bit of a waste of plastic. And so this is where everyone who's shown up to this one gets to cheat, because later when we do Tinkercad, I'm going to show you this process as well, but it's harder in Tinkercad than it is in SculptGL. Because in SculptGL, we can publish our 3D designs with a single click of go to Sketchfab. So we're going to be looking at Sketchfab in more detail along with Tinkercad. But if you play with SculptGL, then you can go to Sketchfab. Also, SculptGL, it's just a website, no login details required. You don't need an account, nothing like that. So it's a really easy thing to just make available. So you can, if you click go to Sketchfab, then it asks you to authorize it. If you have a Google account, then you can sign into Sketchfab with a Google account. I'm already signed in with our Learning Lab account at Tapapa, so that's fine. I'm going to click accept, and then it's going to do its magic. Sometimes it takes longer than this, but for me, this is the preferred output from SculptGL, is to send it to Sketchfab. And Sketchfab is a free online platform that hosts 3D art, 3D designs and VR art. You can imagine it kind of like YouTube, but rather than hosting videos, it hosts virtual reality art and 3D designs. So it has now given me this link. So I can right click and copy that if I want. And then I can go to a new tab and I can paste that in. And that takes me to Sketchfab. Which is great. And there's my design. Look at that. So what I could do is, I need to publish it. Great. And I'm going to copy that. And then I'm going to go to chat. And I'm just going to I'm going to post this link into the chat. And anyone can click on it. And that's how easy it is for me to share a 3D design. Do the different parts ultimately join each other, or do you have to select in group? Yeah, so there isn't like a kind of group function in Albedo. Is a thermodynamic measurement of how well a surface reflects solar energy. That's so cool. Thank you, Craig Sharp. Commonly used to measure the whiteness of an object. 0 meaning black and 1 meaning white. I'm very glad I asked. That's great. How do you change its shape to cylindrical? Yes, so the options of shape are all under scene. So there's add sphere, add cube, add cylinder, add torus. And so you just start with the lump that you want, and then you can manipulate it from there. Subtlety is best, but it's something that you just have to play with. Great. Awesome. Thanks, Sam. Yeah, undo button. Great. Excellent. So yeah, anyone can jump onto that Sketchfab model, which is great. And in Sketchfab, and we'll do more of this later, but you can also edit 3D settings and edit the properties and so on. I'm just going to edit the properties now to change this to call it. Does anyone have any suggestions of what I can call my monster? You cannot save it and come back later. All you can do is export it. COVIDsaurus, right? I love it. COVIDsaurus. There we go. And then I can save that. Sweet. So on Sketchfab, I'm going to make this free. Great. So anyone should be able to download it now as well. You download it and even better. I'm going to call him Lucky COVIDsaurus. Lucky COVIDsaurus. Right. So it's are there child-friendly settings on Sketchfab? Yes, there are. I believe there is child-friendly settings on, but I haven't looked for them. But there is an age-restricted content thing. So if I want to restrict the age of who gets to see it, then I can put it on. So I believe there must be some kind of child-friendly settings on Sketchfab. So that is SculptGL. And if we go to the next tab, you'll see modeling extensions. So this example here, you can click on that and that'll take you to its link in Sketchfab. This was created by, I believe, either a teacher or a parent who came with a class to Papa, to the Learning Lab, and they created that in one session. I think they were playing around for about 20 or 30 minutes. And it was the first time that they touched SculptGL. Clearly, they had some experience creating in 3D, but that was just a one-shot creation that they did. And also I see I only have 10 uploads in free account. If I delete uploads in Sketchfab, will it let me have more, or will there be a need for paid sub? So the 10 uploads is all about it's about your free account, and that is about you, as long as you make your uploads public and published and free to download, then it doesn't count towards your upload credits. So and yes, if you delete things out of it, then it should be fine as well. But your 10 uploads is your upload credits, but as soon as you make things freely available for everyone to play with and download and whatever, then they don't mind. We do have at Bubble, we have a paid sub because we decided to get it and just make sure that if we're dealing with classes worth of creations, then we would have space to do that. So yeah, so I put this up as an example of something that somebody just created off the cuff first time they touched SculptGL, and exporting your designs into Sketchfab is just a really nice way to capture your creations. In Sketchfab, you can create collections and you can add annotations and you do all kinds of fun things. And also with the app, which is free, you can also view your creations in augmented reality or virtual reality. So this little mask symbol that you can see in the bottom right corner there, if you have a Google Cardboard viewer, you should be able to view your models in virtual reality. We also last year for lockdown we created some episodes for Learning TV, and so 2 of those episodes, one for juniors, one for seniors, involves using SculptGL. So if you want a kind of ready-made lesson to send students to, then have a look at the RMTV episodes 2A and 2B. So that kind of brings us to the half an hour mark. If anyone has any other questions, then you can stick them in the chat and let me know. Jesse is just reminding me that you can export your models as, see if I can get to my tabs. You can export your models in a range of different file types, including .obj. And if you're using Windows machines, then Windows machines have a built-in viewer for .obj. So that's just another way that you can view it. Let's have a look and see what chat is saying. Been to 2 other webinars. When will the recordings be sent out? Yes, I'm going to upload the videos, the recordings of these on Monday, just to give me a chance to make sure that that I can put some descriptions and stuff to them, and I will send out a link to where they are, hopefully on Monday. But if you've got access to the slides, then a lot of the kind of background information and stuff is in there. So there's like introductions to all of these tools in short little YouTube videos that you can watch anytime. We would love to have your feedback. So Jess has very kindly posted a link to, oh, I don't need to watch that. Jess has very kindly posted the link in the chat, but if you have access to the slides, please click on the feedback form. We'd love to know something you learned, something you enjoyed, something that we could do better for next time. We're constantly trying to improve these and make them worthwhile for everyone. So thank you everyone for coming along. Enjoy the rest of your day. I hope that you have fun, have a play with SculptGL, chat to someone you know and love, and I'll see you all again soon.